submit a story, topic, or have any other inquiries, please email submit@skibanewsnation.com. Also, you can email Jeremiah Skiba personally at jeremiah@skibanewsnation.com. Also, email Jake personally at jake@skibanewsnation.com. If you want to write us a letter, send us something, help support us, or just say hi, please send your letter to Jeremiah Skiba, P.O. Box 560-271, The Colony, Texas 75056. If you write us a letter, I'll do my best to write you back. Hey, Skiba News Nation family, thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you never miss an episode of Skiba News Nation. If you want to help support us, please consider becoming a Patreon, where you will get exclusive content, shoutouts, and much more. And you can also support our channel by getting yourself some new Skiba News Nation merch. Thank you for coming on this journey with us as we continue to stay on the quest for truth. Huge shout out to all our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for your support. We couldn't do this show without you. If you want to help support us, go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation. Also, you can listen to Skiba News Nation podcast on your favorite podcast platform.
What it costs. I want to know what the truth is. And I hope that people, my son, anybody, if my name comes up, whether you like me, whether you agree with me or not, at least you can respect the fact that he's on a quest for truth. He's on a quest for truth.
Welcome to Skiba News Nation, bringing you unfiltered views, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Skiba, award-winning musician and son of Rob Skiba.
So is Jim Carrey and Jerry Lewis pretty much the same person, Opa? It looks like Jim Carrey stole his moves.
Looks like he watched him a long time and got that down perfect.
Yep. All right, well, hey, Skiba News Nation family. Welcome to episode 76 of Skiba News Nation, your weekly source of the latest news, controversial topics, conspiracies, forgotten history, and so much more. I'm your host, Jeremiah Skiba, and today we're going to be talking about something is happening in 2024. The alien Nephilim sightings at the mall. Andrew Tate warns against Black Swan event. Julian Assange, there is no society anymore. Trump warns about Clinton. Epstein list released. Disney and Epstein connection. The truth about Hamas attack on Israel. The truth about masks. Internet scrubbing linked to the Mandela effect. And all new OPA'S Corner and for history, we'll be talking about the new evidence that Charlie Manson was set up by the government. And Walt Disney predicting the Disney. Now, as always, I'd like to introduce my great and insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Grant. Welcome, Jake. How are you?
Hey, Jeremiah. Doing pretty great. Man, that was a crazy little deep fake of Jim Carrey. That was amazing.
Yeah, well, Lopez said we've done it so often that I have to find a new deep fake every week.
Wow. Who was the first gentleman that was being deep faked?
Jerry Lewis. He was most known for being a comedian, and he was always with Dean Martin, and then they like broke up and stuff. But he was the original Jim Carrey, pretty much.
March of Dimes.
Don't know what that means, but
that's the where he would have this 24-hour telethon that he would collect money for the March of Dimes. Jerry Lewis.
March of Dimes. Wow. Yeah, instead of becoming Andy Kaufman, it looks like Jim Carrey became Jerry Lewis there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty crazy.
There's only one Andy Kaufman. I'm sorry. And he's one of my favorites. Anyways, you got some great current news for me today, Jake?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's do it, man.
All right, so just to remember, what they make you believe you need, is the mansion with all the hot rods, and what you actually need, is like a farmstead garden, living outdoors away from the city centers.
Yep.
Here's an alleged quote from Albert Einstein. There will come a time when the very rich control the media that it will be almost impossible for ordinary people to make informed decisions, and so democracy would then be broken. Now, to start us off, check out this first clip of the ultimate conspiracy.
That's it. That's it. Oh my God!
You know what that's from, right?
Yeah, that's Ace Ventura.
And that's when he finds out that Einhorn is a man. That wouldn't be able to come out today, but
I think it's so funny that you just so happened to choose to play a Jim Carrey clip, and I also chose to start with a Jim Carrey clip. That's so funny.
dude, that's how it always happens. It's just destiny or density.
Synchronicities, as the bear community would say, or, divine appointments, as other communities or people would say, Anyways, so around the whole ballot, Trump being taken off the docket in certain states, if you have to remove someone from the ballot to win, then you are what they say you are, right?
Yep.
So I thought that's hilarious. There's some crazy things happening in 2024, y'all. Check out this next video.
Hey, Internet friends. It's an election year, so you don't have to be a Nostradamus to predict that the circus is coming to town. Filled with tons of distractions and just the entire freak show ready and waiting. And let's just say that things have been stranger than usual in the United States, especially for the last week or so. We've got secret tunnels exposed, cars slamming into the White House gate, hotel explosions, and even Miami monster sightings. Something strange is happening in the United States, and it's about time we asked, what are we being distracted from? If I missed any of the major recent happenings, just let me know, and if you want me to discuss any of these strange happenings in depth, I'll certainly do that for you, but today it's just an overview, and we'll start with the afternoon of January 8th, when an illegal secret tunnel beneath the Chabad Lubavitch World Headquarters in Brooklyn, New York, was uncovered by the NYPD, sparking riots and chaos. Apparently, police discovered these tunnels about a month ago through an anonymous tip, but yesterday a cement truck, curiously, was there to fill in the tunnels, and a group of Hasidic Jewish men were arrested, and they were accused of standing in said tunnels and refusing to leave, having a standoff between themselves and the officers. Of course, there are many questions about what these tunnels were used for. Footage was taken of a small soiled mattress being removed, as well as a child's high chair being discovered. Some notes on Chabad: they are one of the largest Jewish organizations in the world, and that means they have great international influence. So I really want to emphasize that this wasn't some rinky-dink synagogue, it was the headquarters in Brooklyn. Reports are that in recent years, work has been done to these tunnels. There have been suggestions that they were COVID congregation centers during lockdown, but that's mainly just speculation. And it's important to note that these tunnels are connected to
That's how they were all going to Shabbat. They were sneaking in through the drain.
ground passageways of surrounding buildings and such, and we really don't know. Reports have
digging tunnels into the synagogue so that they can, do their prayers.
Been published stating where they lead. What do y'all think about these tunnels, and what do you think they've been used for? Around the same time the tunnel riots were happening, the Secret Service reported that one suspect was taken into custody following a car crash that occurred on Monday evening when a car ran into the gate of the White House. What's noteworthy to me is how little detail there is on this incident. If you remember, in May of 2023, I included in a video that a man drove his rented U-Haul box truck into the White House gate. We never really got any follow-up on that. But
When will they learn that it's not going to break down? Like, they're not going to break through the gate.
Yeah.
People keep trying to drive through it.
Say that on the same day, January 8th, around the same time, a huge explosion occurred at the Sandman Signature Hotel in downtown Fort Worth, Texas, reportedly caused by a gas leak. I really wonder who was staying there. It was said that the explosion could be heard from miles away. Of course, we've also got to discuss the Alaskan Airlines incident that occurred last Friday, January 5th, that involved a whole door flying off a Boeing 737 at 16,000 feet in the air. Apparently, no one was sitting in the seats closest to the door, but passengers reported oxygen masks coming down, headrests, phones, and clothing getting sucked out the door. Thankfully, the flight was grounded and landed safely. I was going to say that in the aftermath of COVID lockdowns and all these medical mandates, it's left critical sectors short-staffed, and people who would never have been hired in the first place are getting the green light, so it's like a breeding ground for incompetency and error, which is obviously no good when safety checks are involved. But when they set out to do the investigation on this flight, it was revealed that the voice recorder in the cockpit, which records noises from the engines and pilots' voices, was totally overwritten. So they can't hear what was said during the flight, which is pretty suspicious to me. A number of Boeing 737 MAX 9s have been grounded for inspection ever since, and I read somewhere that the only thing that Alaskan Airlines had done for passengers was give them free food and refund their flight. Can you imagine getting on another flight after your first one ends up with the plane door popping off and all you got in your hand is a free bag of chips from Alaskan Airlines? No thanks. Of course, we got to talk about the creatures reportedly walking around Miami. And no, I'm not talking about lot lizards. The very large police presence responded to what they said were teenagers fighting at Bayside Marketplace Mall in Miami. Which, I mean, how many police does that take to break up? Surely no more than a handful of officers, right? So there was some speculation about what was actually happening, and amateur footage emerged showing what appeared to be a large
we're going in force.
Creature standing at the entrance of the open air mall, and a bunch of people said it was an alien or something. Again, internet friends, I feel like I'm no fun because I really don't talk about aliens on here very much. I'll talk about some Nephilim from time to time, but I really just don't get down with all the alien talk. So do I believe that there was an alien creature at the opening of the mall? I think what is more likely is that the algorithms are pushing certain topics to the surface while they are bearing other topics online, just to sort of steer the discourse in a way that they want it to be steered.
Well put, lady.
Given that batches of Epstein files were being released over the last week or so, with court documents alleging that Jeffrey Epstein recorded tapes of Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, and Sir Richard Branson, as well as endless sordid reports of various politicians and celebrities being blackmailed on Epstein Island, I have to ask, are these sorts of things, even alien sightings, a total distraction? I feel like a broken record, but Project Bluebeam is a theory that was published back in 1994 by a Canadian investigative journalist. And he alleged that NASA and the United Nations were collaborating to bring on a new world order, and that they would do this by using their advanced technology to phase out cash, alter thinking patterns, manipulate the weather like artificially created earthquakes, and even create holograms to resemble an alien invasion, or the coming of Christ, or Muhammad, or whatever, to usher in a one-world religion. I know Project Bluebeam might sound out there to some, but you have to remember, lunatics are running the asylum.
All right. So she gave a wonderful breakdown of all the current events that have happened in the past few days. So I thought that was very interesting. Just the connection with stuff happening in 2024, I think, is significant. And here's, of course, another realm of influencer, Andrew Tate, talking about how 2024 will have a Black Swan event. So check this out.
They are literally telling you what they're going to do to you. 2024 may be the year of a black swan event. This is a national security event with high impact that's very hard to predict. We're facing the wars in Israel, also Ukraine, and we're so divided in this country in ways that we haven't seen before. And I think that just creates fertile ground for our adversaries like North Korea, China, and Iran. And that's what concerns me most.
There's going to be a huge catastrophe that's going to come. How do they know this? Oh, we just have this feeling. They're going to hit you with a mass catastrophe. Something bad's going to happen, and they're going to come along. And the only thing that the human psyche can accept the loss of freedom for is safety. Look at COVID. We will take your freedom away, but we will make you safe. They're planning to do some big false flag catastrophe specifically so that they could enslave you. And you need to start doing something right now. You can't wait to 2024. 2024 is when the big black swan event's going to come. We don't know what they're going to do. It's down to you if you actually want to be a hero or not. If you do, you can join our team. You can join the fight. The Tate brothers have stood up against the marauding horde, picked up our swords, and we're prepared to fight to the death. It is now down to you for the rest of the people of the village to stand up and say, we're going to help them. Otherwise, it's just us dying up here on our own. You're either going to be a hero or you're going to suffer eternal slavery for the rest of your human years, and your bloodline will be obscure and uninteresting for the rest of recorded history. So are you prepared to escape?
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, anyways, it's always interesting to hear from the different influencers out there. You know, they speak truth, but use it to build their following. But, you know, I'd be willing to interview, you know, one of the Tate brothers.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, when you compare a influencer and a truth teller, right, somebody who is doing, you know, supposedly good things in terms of exposing the Matrix and all this stuff, you have to compare figures like Andrew Tate with guys like Julian Assange, for example, with, you know, WikiLeaks and like practically the difference of supporting one or the other. So let's check out this next clip of Julian Assange.
There is no society anymore. What there is a transnational security elite that is busy carving up the world using your tax money. To combat that elite, we must not petition. We must take it over. We must form our own networks of strength and mutual value, which can challenge those strengths and self-interested values of the warmongers in this country and in others that have formed hand in hand an alliance to take money from the United States, from every NATO country, from Australia, and launder it through Afghanistan, launder it through Iraq, launder it through Somalia, launder it through Yemen, launder it through Pakistan, and wash that money in people's blood.
Very interesting. Now, of course, I read that hashtag at the bottom. For a second, I was like, wait a second. Does that say NWO or never? So I was like, oh, no, but it's hashtag now or never. But NWO or never would have been funny. It was like the whole, you know, clip of Assange is actually linking back to the NWO. And they're like, we got all of you who are watching them. We know, you know. But anyways, you know, when you compare individuals, it doesn't have to be an either or. I mean, you can take the meat and spit out the bones. When it comes to any individual, it's never good to put anybody on a pedestal. So that's why we can share many of these different figures on our broadcast without having to give them so-and-so a pedestal to influence in other areas that we might disagree with personally, you know, their opinions on this or that. But the spirit of truth, you know, the passion of pursuing after reality and exposing darkness, and, you know, it kind of helps you sift through a lot of these individuals. So that brings up this next funny little tidbit of truth that Donald Trump was dropping back in 2015 about Bill Clinton. Check this out.
Bill Clinton. Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
He knew way before.
He knew way back, So, anyways, I think it's interesting seeing stuff like that. And of course, we had just in 2024, right? The Epstein list has been released, and I think the connection that woman made in the first video, that it's all this stuff happening on the news is distracting from the fact that there's some very wealthy, rich, influential people on this list. And
there were only like two that shocked me. There were only like two that were mainstream that I actually was like, wow. Like, I didn't expect them on there, but.
And this next clip is to show you whose names showed up on the list. Check this out.
Let's see. Oh my gosh.
Obama's like really into awarding people that hang out with him.
I didn't know Tom Hanks was on it. Doesn't surprise me. Who's that? Oh, Barbra Streisand. Oprah?
Yeah, so that's a good majority of the mainstream people that were actually on the list or whatever. There's actually an interesting Disney connection with Epstein Island and people that were sent to hang out with Epstein and the boys. Check this out.
Little blurb update today on Epstein. It was showing a photo of him at Disney. He's sitting down at the table, Piglet's behind him. It's him and another guy sitting down, and this guy is holding this girl, like by her arms like this. That same girl is in another photo with Epstein. They're on the plane. She's like she's sleeping, she's laying down, and he's holding her like this. Then, come to find out, Disney sent kids to his island for snorkeling trips for like 9 years.
Snorkeling.
And their cruise ships made stops at his island all the time.
Dude, that's creepy. So you wonder where they sourced all their victims. Man,
that blows
shocking.
my mind.
So with that, we have Epstein and his Mossad intelligence agent connection that we've talked about in previous episodes, how he was working for a foreign entity, an intelligence agency, to kind of get dirt on the strongest figures in American political and entertainment, circles. So this goes into, how this next video talks a little bit about how it just doesn't make sense what's happening between Hamas and Israel. Check this out.
I'm going to share with you something that keeps with my mind and the media will never tell you about. I arrived in Israel on August 4th to visit my family. The entire country was upside down. Over 400,000 Israelis, that's 5% of the country, were protesting in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem to overthrow Netanyahu and its government's effort to radically transform the judiciary in Israel. Netanyahu and other politicians wanted to strip the Supreme Court of its power to overturn their decision if found unconstitutional. In other words, Netanyahu and other politicians wanted to consolidate the power to themselves. Then suddenly there is a Hamas attack. Thousands of people are getting killed. All the media and attention shifted to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. All Israelis stand together against the Palestinians and Netanyahu stays in power. You wanna tell me that all of this happens by coincidence? I don't think so.
Wow. So I know we have our friend Nir Shoshani living in Israel who's watching this. I wonder if he would be willing to comment below the video. I'm sure he might catch this episode. So if he would, comment on this situation. How has that been resolved, people of Israel? Like the protests that were against Netanyahu, was any of that kind of, I guess the whole country was unified behind the war against Gaza because of the Hamas attack. And so it kind of made them forget about the political drama with Netanyahu. And I guess under military, martial law, I guess that, they can't oust a sitting politician. So I'm curious, what's the situation there? But anyways, this goes to, how the world views our president, Joe Biden, is sometimes it's tragic. And, check out this clip and you tell me what's wrong with this video.
For an unprecedented package for Israel's defense this week. As per
See
reports, the
nobody
package
shake
will
his hand.
include $10 billion in emergency assistance for Israel and $60
Biden's like, here,
billion.
hold my hand.
The US president spoke to
Oh my
Ukrainian
God.
counterpart Vladimir Zelensky hours before the speech. Biden has also
Nobody
been
shook his
striking
hand.
statesmen like.
I mean, I wouldn't.
Of course,
I wouldn't shake his hand.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if they were setting it up as he's introducing Zelensky, and that's why he didn't shake their hand because they, of course, know him. I get that. So the optics look funny, right? It just shows like world respect towards Zelensky and kind of disregard towards the U.S. president. But of course, I know it could just be an optical thing.
I thought he was going to try to shake hands with the teleprompter or something like he always does. So,
and never forget the insanity of political control that just recently happened, in 2021. Check this out.
Forget this moment.
All about optics, right?
Yep.
As soon as they take the picture with the masks on to show that they were doing it, they all come off. And
that's so stupid.
And they were using those tactics of subliminal mind control and fear-mongering to justify what has come full circle to be a almost apocalyptic medical blemish on the history of mankind. Check this next video out.
There was I was recently at a conference in Romania on the crisis, and so there was a lot of work trying to unpack what we actually understand, and I saw a credible estimate of something like 17 million deaths globally from this technology. So
17 million deaths from the...
And, when you scale up to billions, it's not hard to reach a number like that with a technology this dangerous. Now, to your deeper question, I think let's steel man.
So just for perspective, I mean, that's like the death toll of a global war.
Yes, absolutely. This is a great tragedy of history. So that proportion. And amazingly, there is no way in which it's over. I mean, we are still apparently recommending these things for healthy children. Never stood any chance of getting any benefit from it. Every chance of suffering harms that are not only serious, but tragic on the basis that children have long lives ahead of them. If you ruin a child's immune system in youth, they have to spend the rest of their presumably shortened life in that state. So never made any sense that we were giving this to kids in the first place. The fact that we're still doing it when the emergency, to the extent there even was one, is clearly over, and when there's never been any proper justification of administering it to healthy kids. It just, healthy kids don't die, and the shot doesn't prevent you from catching or transmitting it. So there was just literally no justification you could come up.
So I think that's insanity to watch whenever you see the facts come out and the actual numbers are reported about how mass media was used to indoctrinate and push something so lethal and with adverse effects that were unforeseen. And so that comes to what's being done on the internet now is a scrubbing of history, a scrubbing of the facts. And this next video, I think, is an interesting correlation between a well-known conspiracy we've even talked about on our show, Jeremiah, and how it's tied to altering history. Check out this next clip.
This is so scary. I have a theory that the Mandela effect is used to see how much of history can be altered in front of our eyes. Here's a prime example of one of that. There's this woman on TikTok who was going crazy because she swore the Fruit of the Loom had a cornucopia logo. And
I
to the
remember
point that even Fruit of the Loom themselves put a timeline of all their logos, and it never had a cornucopia. And this woman went hard. Her therapist told her, yo, you need to chill out. You need to just drop this. So she went through all of her old clothing, and lo and behold, she found a shirt with the Fruit of the Loom with the cornucopia logo on it that shows me like, yo, I think the Mandela effect is an operation that's running around right now to see how much of history can be altered right in front of our eyes without us noticing. And then they gaslight the public and be like, nope, this never happened. People are thinking about it very little.
I had underwear with the cornucopia label, and they were one of our customers too, and I can tell you they had it.
Well, it never happened,
Really?
Opa. It never happened to them. And I remember it as a kid.
Wow, Opa has experienced the Mandela effect. That's amazing.
How does it feel, Opa, for your first Mandela effect feeling? You feel lied to?
I don't know.
I mean, we've been lied to for a long time, so.
I'm feeling old.
I blew his mind last week for history. I think I kind of convinced him about the atomic bomb stuff. So.
Hey, so I mean, I think it's really interesting how, if it's possible for them to change the world's collective opinion on tangible historical evidence that would make us all collectively think of history in one way versus another, think of how much easier it will be for them to tailor the historical opinion or the historical record if everything's just online. And all the posts, all the videos, if the videos are scrubbed, if the posts are changed and the dates are altered or whatever, I mean, they could literally, 100 years from now, we could look back and be like, wow, COVID-19 was the worst pandemic that ever happened.
Or whoa, Joe Biden was the best president to ever live. It's
exactly.
Oh my gosh.
I don't understand how Fruit of the Loom could say that they never had one. I mean,
you're experiencing it.
There are so many pieces of garments that they had out there with their labels on it, and they can't get rid of them all. People are just like this lady. She found one.
I mean, I love that Opa just had his mind blown by the Mandela effect, because the first time I learned, I could not leave my room for like a week. I was so like, nothing is real. Nothing is real. That's what I kept telling myself. Like, what is real? Like, some people think it's like alternate timeline. So maybe we're just on the same timeline.
Aha, that's it.
Does it have anything to do with CERN?
I have a practical answer for the Mandela effect, and it goes like this. You probably owned underwear from a brand ripoff, where some guy in his garage was stamping Fruit of the Loom logos on underwear that he was undercutting the market, and and that's where the logo or the saying or whatever it's from poor secondhand ripoffs that we then accept into our culture as the way it should have been. So,
well, let me ask you this.
Kind of my theory.
So they're sneaking it into the factories, to the Fruit of the Loom factories too, right?
So I think it's being circulated. So it would be very easy for somebody to sell as a general kind of product manager or whatever to different wholesalers to be hey, I'll
I was in their factory. Their factory's in Puerto Rico, actually.
Okay.
And in their factory,
wow.
they have all of their, I could see all of the garments that they're making there in their factory. They're using our equipment. And I know that they had the cornucopia logo on their labels that they would sew into their products.
Oh, but that's you just kind of
that's
explained
almost
it.
Firsthand. Wow.
Well, what about this? I can blow your mind, Jake. C-3PO in Star Wars, what color was he?
Wasn't he gold with a silver leg?
You must know that one. Most people think that C-3PO was all gold, and all the toys are all gold. even one of Lindsay's that she has up in her classroom was all gold, so I painted it silver because of the Mandela effect. I mean, could just be lighting, but there's so many of them that it irritates me because I feel wrong all the time.
I'm a Star Wars fan, so I probably knew that one a little better.
Yeah.
Well, remember, Anakin as the one who actually built him, and when he first, in episode 1, he didn't have any skins at all. So Anakin probably just got whatever he could to put on him.
Yeah, that's true.
You might have to cut out my example so I don't look so stupid.
Well, no, you're fine. Okay, and one last thing is just in a realm of an interesting possibility. Here's a Sunday Cool episode talking about where the possible location of the Ark of the Covenant might be.
So the story goes, the Ark of the Covenant, it's lost. Some people say it's in Ethiopia, but there's another story. Supposedly, Muhammad...
Ali?
No.
Okay.
He went, found the Ark of the Covenant, brought it back to Mecca, and buried it.
Wait, that's ours.
But this is where it gets weird. They were building a new mosque in Mecca in 2015, and they supposedly dug it up without knowing it was there. And as soon as they reached it, there was a giant sandstorm that came blowing in. This crane fell, killed 100 people.
Oh my gosh.
And then all the people around it said that it looked like a plasma explosion shot into the sky.
Oh my gosh.
And then shortly after that, Kirill, the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, met with the Pope and supposedly grabbed the Ark of the Covenant, and straight from the port in Saudi Arabia, the Russian Navy ship went straight to Antarctica. But the theory is that the Pope knew where the Ark of the Covenant was, teamed up with the Russian Orthodox Church, took the Ark of the Covenant from Mecca and placed it in Antarctica.
What?
That's weird.
Weird stuff.
Wow.
Yep.
So, very interesting. You know, a possible theory, and of course, I've seen that video of the person from an Antarctic engineering team who was like into fixing their electrical systems or whatever, exposing that the bases in Antarctica are actually well known for, being able to discharge energy into the Earth. And, so I don't know if maybe they're using the Ark of the Covenant for like a big battery,
maybe,
so they can wage geological warfare. Anyways, man, that's all the news for this week.
All right. Thank you, Jake, for another great current news as always. And now I want you guys to check out my dad's refraction kit. So check this out.
Globalists, guys, these are people who believe in the globe now. They are the ones that said, hey, the atmosphere really is acting like a lens, and they put a lens in front of the camera to show how it works. So I'm just doing what they're doing. I'm using the same logic that they're using, the same science that they're using. And, science is all about testable, observable, and repeatable data, right? So, to alleviate the problem of distorting the edges because the magnifying glass ring is too small, and I got these plastic magnifying sheets and came up with another way of doing the same thing using the sheet right here. Set the city up, a little cutout of the city, and now I've got the big magnifying glass sheet. Bring the camera right up to the lens. See, that's the normal view of the city. Now let's back up again.
The science is the same of that of a lens. Here's a simple example.
So if you're looking at Chicago here,
The atmosphere really is acting like a lens.
yes.
Atmosphere really is acting like a lens, and this is how much of the city is missing due to the lensing effect, the magnification of the atmosphere. You're missing, a good portion of the city just by pulling my iPhone back on a 3-foot long desk. That's how much I lost of the city. And as with any scientific experiment, you always try to improve upon what you did before. So I got some foam core, made a little housing for the magnifying sheet, and pasted the city on the back there, and I made it as 2 separate pieces so that I could flex it as necessary, because I think that there are different types of atmospheric conditions that would allow for more magnification versus less magnification. Just go out into a field, something like this nice flat field out by my apartment complex, lower your iPhone to the ground to simulate us, because we're really small on this massively large plane, right? Straight horizontal plane. Then go ahead and walk away from your camera on this flat horizontal plane, and just for the fun of it, let's go ahead and bring the city in here, and I'll try to keep my head right between those 2 buildings right there, and I'm going to pull the city along on this flat straight horizontal plane, pulling the city far away, and just simply due to perspective lines, look at what we end up with, boys and girls. Amazing, isn't it? Now let's bring the water line in to simulate water instead of grass and get rid of the background there with some sky. Now let's slide our little city over here, put the big city back in, and, well, just due to perspective lines, this is how much of the city magically disappeared. So based on what we've just seen here, apparently all you either need is atmospheric magnification, refraction, or perspective lines. Either one or all three can easily account for the obscuring of the lower parts of cities and ships for that matter, with no need of curvature whatsoever. But just as sort of a bonus round, if perspective works for ships and for cities, I guess it would work the same for the sun too. So maybe this explains sunrise and sunset on the flat Earth. Works the same way. Perspective. Pretending my face is the sun. There you go. It's not rocket science.
You don't get to pick the anomalies that seem to agree with your views and ignore the common observations that don't, and still call yourself an honest investigator. That is intellectually dishonest.
So get yourself a refraction kit today where you can prove that the Earth is flat from the safety of your living room. And I'd also like to say, if you still want to get my dad's books and his bundles, my girlfriend and I are still running the shop. So check out BabylonRisingBooks.com if you want some of his material. So it's about that time for an all-new OPA'S Corner. Take it away, Opa.
Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat nicht 3 Ecken, dann ist es nicht mein Hut.
Well, welcome to another OPA'S Corner. So, let's get started. My boss was honest with me today. He pulled up to work with his awesome new car this morning, and I complimented him on it. He replied, "Well, if you work hard, set goals, stay determined, and put in long hours, I can get an even better one next year." The wife and I took a long, leisurely drive out to the country and pulled over to fill up our car's gas tank and tires. She was surprised to see that the station had a fee to fill the tires. Why in the world would they charge for air? Inflation. Tim decided to tie the knot with his longtime girlfriend. One evening after the honeymoon, he was organizing his golfing equipment. His wife was standing nearby watching him. After a long period of silence, she finally speaks. "Tim, I've been thinking, now that we're married, maybe it's time you should quit golfing. You spend so much time on the course. You could probably get a good price for your clubs." Tim gets this horrified look on his face. "Darling, what's wrong?" "For a minute there, you were beginning to sound like my ex-wife." "Ex-wife? I didn't know you were married before." "I wasn't." A guy asks a lawyer about his fees. "I charge $50 for 3 questions." "That's awful steep, isn't it?" "Yes, I suppose so. Now, what's your final question?" One day, Max went to see Carl. Carl had a big, swollen nose. "Whoa! What happened, Carl?" "I sniffed up bros." "What?" "There's no B in bros." there wasn't this one. My nagging wife suddenly died on a trip to Jerusalem. The funeral director said, "Sir, it cost about $45,000 if we sent her home back to the States, or $500 if we buried her here in Jerusalem." "Ship her home." "But sir, why don't you bury her here in the Holy Land and you can save money?" "A long time ago, a man was buried here, and 3 days later he rose from the dead. I can't take that chance." A husband and wife at custody court. The judge looks sternly at the ex-wife. "And why do you think you deserve custody of the child?" "I brought him into the world, so I should have custody of him." "Well, that's simple, yet a good reason." Then the judge looks toward the ex-husband. "Why do you think you deserve custody of the child, sir?" The ex-husband thought long and hard about his response. After a brief moment of silence, he replies, "If I put money into a Pepsi machine and a Pepsi comes out, is it mine or the machine's?" A tough old cowboy from Texas counseled his granddaughter that if she wanted to live a long life, the secret was to sprinkle a pinch of gunpowder on her oatmeal every morning. The granddaughter did this religiously until the age of 103, when she died. She left behind 14 children, 30 grandchildren, 45 great-grandchildren, 25 great-great-grandchildren, and a 40-foot hole where the crematorium used to be. During a recent password audit, it was found that a blonde was using the following password: Mickey, Minnie, Pluto, Huey, Louie, Dewey, Donald, Goofy, Sacramento. When asked why such a long password, she said that she was told that it had to be at least 8 characters long and include at least 1 capital. And now for the funnies. We were worried when you didn't show up at the park. These noise-canceling headphones are the best. They'll block out fireworks, but you'll still be able to hear your human say, "Good boy." I'll take 'em. Randy, just sit down, eat your cereal, and look for that thing later. Meaties. Free kid inside. Uses for fruitcake, number 183. Put it halfway up your bird feeder to keep squirrels away. And here we are in Times Square, 11:58. The crowd is gathered for the traditional bowl drop.
Yep.
Pinocchio in his later years. Well, what sort of garbage are you filling these kids' heads with this time? Monday night in the woods. The deer fakes left, and now he's going wide. Oh! He took a hit, but he's still on his feet. Now he's swinging to... He's down! They got him! They got him! The hunt is over! resolutions. Bark less, wag more, be nicer to the cat. I should probably be more realistic. Hey, this could be the chief. He stood there, unflinching, tall and silent as always. But, as Gus soon found out, this outward calm belied the Widowmaker's reputation. So, you're the mighty oak I've been hearing about. Well, you don't look so mighty to me. And I suppose you think this is a dream come true? Hold still. I have to get a photo to show you were delivered. Silent fart, deadly fart, nasty stench, work of art. All my humans say it smells so bad. I get no blame, they think it's from Dad. Time to get the Febreze. They'll need a lot of Febreze. Cat personal trainers. That's right now. Turn around and lie down, then stretch out so that you're pressing every key at once.
Yep.
I tell you, she's driving me nuts. I come home at night and it's quack, quack, quack. I get up in the morning and it's quack, quack, quack. Jurassic parking. Give me a hand here, Etta. I got into a nest of wiener dogs over on 5th and Maple. This is an intervention. We know you have dozens of catnip toys hidden around the house. Wait. I'm confused. Bob, you're the one who's claiming your Siamese twin, Frank, changes into a werewolf every full moon? I just spent 30 minutes on the treadmill. But you never turned it on. A government study just released today showed that nobody can stop the government from wasting money on new government studies. Gesundheit. A nice one. And an impressionable moment in the childhood of Buffalo Bill. Chief say, "Oh yeah? Your horse Clark's mother.
Here it is again, William. Front page. Lewis and Clark expedition declared a success. See what I mean? His name is always first. I tell you, son, if you don't do something about this now, you'll be playing second fiddle in the history books.
Yep.
I can't believe it. I was just talking to him yesterday.
That's dark.
Epic Bible misquotes. Take this, Job, and shove it.
Hey, Barry, in the back row. New kid.
That's right. You can be frozen and come back. Deep thoughts from Charlie. Life's too short to worry about matching socks. And that concludes another OPA'S Corner.
Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat nicht 3 Ecken, dann ist es nicht mein Hut.
OPA'S Corner is now available on my own YouTube channel. Like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you, Opa, for another great OPA'S Corner. And now a word from our good friend and sponsor, JJ. Are you tired of living in constant pain? Do you feel like you've tried every CBD product on the market with no relief? Look no further than JJ's Natural CBD Rub. When I was diagnosed with degenerative disc disease, this was the only product that completely took my pain away. Working with JJ has been a dream come true, and his products have completely changed my life. Don't just take my word for it. Visit JJ's website, jjcbdrub.com, and read hundreds of testimonials from people whose lives have been changed by all of JJ's amazing products. And now, as a Skiba News Nation exclusive, you can get $50 off a 3-pack special of JJ's Natural CBD Rub by texting CBD to 920-382-7720. Don't suffer in silence any longer. Take control of your pain today with JJ's Natural CBD Rub. Again, text CBD to 920-382-7720 for an exclusive discount and start feeling the relief you deserve. The links are in the description below. Thank you, JJ. You're a lifesaver. All right, well, it's time for some history. So this week for history, we're going to be talking about Charlie. And no, not this beautiful little baby right here. We're going to be talking about this Charlie again. Oh, upside down. Anyways, so we're going to be talking about some new evidence that I found that I couldn't help but share with you guys. But before we get into that new evidence, I want to kind of do a quick recap of what we know about the official story of Charlie Manson. So let's play that first clip.
Yeah. Tonight, 2 Canadians who feel the past 20 years of their lives were damaged by the CIA tell their stories publicly for the first time. They believe they were part of a CIA project called MK Ultra.
Here's a flashback that no one really expected. Imagine your mother on an acid trip. I'm talking June Cleaver on LSD.
Everything is in color, and I can feel the air. I can see it. I can see all the molecules.
Until Charlie's out.
Looks like that will be never.
He'll be out. All the people will be out.
What makes you so sure?
Angela Davis will be out. Bobby Seale will be out. There's a revolution. We'll be here.
When do you expect this revolution?
Soon.
Did you expect this verdict?
The revolution.
What do you mean by a revolution?
A bloody revolution.
Probably one of the most infamous cult leaders of all time. His story has spawned numerous TV shows, books, and movies in the last 50 years. Most people have heard about the story.
Maybe I should have killed 400 or 500 people, then I would have felt better.
Then when I felt like I really offered society something.
Like most people in his profile, Charlie didn't have a great childhood. He had an absent father and had a mother that was in and out of prison. Manson never had a stable home and spent a lot of his time getting into trouble.
Charlie Manson was basically just sort of a two-bit criminal who had spent most of his life inside the system, had been incarcerated for, what, half of his life, something like that?
Half of his life when he was released about age 32 and 67, all federal institutions too, which was interesting.
This was one of the first strange things about the Manson story. The amount of times he broke parole, got into trouble, should have landed him many more years in prison. Yet, for some reason, he kept getting out.
And they allowed Charles Manson over and over and over again to get out of jail.
Yeah.
They knew that he was committing all these crimes. And instead of incarcerating
well, we have to be careful
him,
when we say they. A real turning point in my reporting was after I got access to Manson's parole file, this record, a pretty substantial record, I took it to someone named Louis Wachneck, who was a retired judge. I brought the documents to him. We laid them all out, and he's looking at all the documents, and he's seeing this pattern of catch, release, and he's going, chickens, chickens, this is all chicken. He goes, he should have gone back the first time. They wanted him out. He said he was more important to somebody out than in. He goes, you've got to find out who it was.
It was around this time where Charlie created the family. He used his charm to gather a group, mostly of young women who were seen as free-spirited hippies, and a few men who idolized his so-called forward thinking.
And he had the answers. For as twisted as it all got, you know, I really think that I felt that I had met someone that by being around him would have a positive change.
The original story goes that Manson believed that there was going to be a race war.
And he wanted to incite this race war because he had convinced his followers that through messages he received from the Beatles' White Album, from their lyrics, from biblical Old Testament prophecies, that he had been told that he was going to be the savior of the world. And once the race war started, he would hide his family in a bottomless pit in the desert, and when the race war ended, with the blacks winning, the blacks would be framed for murders. The Manson family would emerge and repopulate the planet with their perfect offspring and dominate the blacks.
In his so-called helter-skelter theory. The first use of the term helter-skelter came from the song with the same name in the Beatles' White Album. It referred to the British amusement park ride, but Manson interpreted it as a concern with the war. Later, the family would relocate and live rent-free on and near the Swan ranch. Manson had dreams since he was young of becoming a famous musician. Supposedly, Terry Melcher, a record producer, turned down Manson for a shot at producing an album. Some of the Manson girls have testified that Charlie was extremely upset with Melcher. Manson even visited the home of Melcher in 1969, only to find out that he had moved. The occupants at 10050 CeeLo Drive was the pregnant and up-and-coming actress Sharon Tate and her husband, the movie director Roman Polanski.
Roman did a lot of bad stuff to Sharon.
Yeah, he seemed like a terrible person.
He was pretty bad, yeah.
Well, when you hear what he did, the reason why he can never come back to the country, you go, well, okay.
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it's not that surprising.
He's a monster.
Yeah. I mean,
a monster that's really good at making movies.
Yeah.
On the night of August 9th, 1969, inside that house was Sharon Tate, hairstylist Jay Sebring, the wealthy Abigail Folger, the daughter of Peter Folger, that Folger,
Folger's Coffee, mountain grown for richer flavor,
and aspiring screenwriter Wojtek Frykowski. Atkins wrote Pig on the front door in Tate's blood. The next night, the four murderers plus Leslie Van Houten and Steve Grogan took 3301 Waverly Drive, the home of Leno and Rosemary LaBianca. Krenwinkel wrote Rise and Death to Pigs on the walls, and Helter Skelter on the refrigerator door, all in the LaBianca's blood.
So this is what we learned about the Manson case in the past when we covered it on Skiba News Nation. But there's a big connection with MKUltra, showing that there's a lot more to the official narrative and the official story that was presented to us by the mainstream media. And there's actually a Jack Ruby and JFK connection, and that's what we're going to be recapping in this next one. So let's check it out.
Charlie and his followers would be arrested and be sentenced in one of the most strange trials of all time.
Those arrested are 2 women and 1 man, and the Los Angeles police said they would ask murder indictments against several others. 5 women are being held as material witnesses.
The reasoning for these murders had seemed to be more or less done and dusted. After Helter Skelter, a book by Vincent Bugliosi, was released in 1974, it seemed that all the details were covered regarding the Manson family and the murders. But then, investigative reporter named Tom O'Neill saw more to the story, and after a 20-year-long up and down journey, he would release in 2019 a book that turns the Manson murders completely upside down. Something that always has creeped me out was the CIA project known as MKUltra.
The American Intelligence Agency had paid for a series of brainwashing experiments
under a project codenamed MK Ultra. The tests were conducted in secret in the United States and in Canada at a mental hospital attached to McGill University. Experimental drugs, including LSD, were administered to human guinea pigs. The patients were never told that their treatment was part of a CIA experiment.
Hundreds of people being tortured without any consent is something that sounds straight out of a movie. When MKUltra ended in the 1960s, other secret projects would follow. But what does all of this have to do with Manson?
Can I make a summary just for people who are like, what the fuck is going on right now? Essentially, what you're saying is that Charles Manson was a part of some sort of a program.
Yes.
And that through this program, they were using him and using, with LSD and all the members of the family, they were turning them violent.
What I've proven is that he was getting leniency from the federal government. The person who represented the federal government there was his parole officer, Roger Smith, the federal parole officer. Roger was also doing drug research at the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic. This was an apartment that was decked out to look like a communal hippie place. He had 6 graduate students. He goes, grow your hair long, wear jeans, dress like hippies, and lure people in there. I knew that everybody that worked there, because I interviewed everybody that was alive, they all said, oh yeah, we knew it was Charlie and the girls. They come in every day or every few days to see Roger. Manson, during that period, turned into the Manson that we're familiar with today, you know, the monster, the embodiment of evil, as Vince Bugliosi called him.
So if Smith was a part of these experiments, and if Smith was also his parole officer and did know him before he did the 7 years before he got out, which is when it's speculated that Manson was possibly experimented on, and Smith might have been aware of the entire process of it and was supervising him upon his release.
Yeah.
And so that's why every time Manson got arrested, which should have just locked him up, they would just let him go.
Everything surrounding Manson doesn't make any sense. There are a lot of strange ties between Manson and the doctors who did this type of testing.
MKUltra began in the federal prisons experiments on prisoners. Their main objective was to get people to go and commit an act of murder against their moral code and have no memory of their programming. Manson was in the prime place where the experiments were occurring in prisons before he was released.
Well, you don't see it, but the only truth is now. Now is the only thing that's real.
Dr. David Smith, who founded the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, he had given an office to a scientist named Jolly West, Louis J. West, who was, when the hearings occurred in the 70s, identified as a top MKUltra researcher. He was an academic. He denied ever being involved in MKUltra. I have all these letters between him and the guy who was running the program describing how they're going to do it, hide it from his colleagues. Everything that he had been accused of and denied, he did. Not only did he do it, he created the blueprint.
He also had been the psychologist for Jack Ruby. November 25th, 1963 is a day that went down in infamy.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You'll excuse the fact that I'm out of breath, but about 10 or 15 minutes ago, a tragic thing, from all indications at this point, has happened in the city of Dallas. Let me quote to you this. President Kennedy and Governor John Connally have been cut down by assassins' bullets in downtown Dallas. They were riding in an open automobile when the shots were fired. The president, his limp body carried in the arms of his wife Jacqueline, has rushed to Parkland Hospital.
Once Oswald was arrested, if there was a conspiracy, you definitely didn't want him to testify. Enter Jack Ruby.
Jolly West inserted himself into the Ruby case after Ruby was convicted of shooting and killing Oswald. Before he was going to testify to the Warren Commission, he had never testified at his trial about why he killed Oswald. His defense argument was that he had epilepsy and he had had an epileptic fit and shot him and was amnesic of the shooting.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so
that fits right into the narrative like a key.
Well, this gets better. So West inserts himself into the case, gets assigned, goes to the Dallas County Jail to examine Ruby in preparation for psychiatric review, emerges from the county jail and there's press waiting for him, and he announces that within the preceding 48 hours, Ruby had a psychotic break. He couldn't return to sanity. He had audio and visual hallucinations. During the exam, he said Ruby hid under a table because he thought there were people in the room trying to kill him, told West that he could hear children's screams outside his jail cell as they were boiled alive, and West said he's completely insane. I mean, there was no evidence of Ruby being mentally ill prior to West's exam. West was alone with him in the cell and then treated him for about 6 months. West, that was one of his objectives in his MKUltra research, was to make people induce insanity without a person's awareness.
In one of the biggest trials in American history, the shooter of a president who had a lot of enemies gets murdered before he can testify before trial by a random man with mob connections who also happened to have one of the biggest psychiatrists in the MK Ultra project. You're telling me that this was all a big coincidence? How stupid are we?
Breaking news, Charles Manson, the infamous cult leader who led a string of murders in the 1960s, is dead. ABC's Lindsay Davis is here with the latest details. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning to you, Robin. He was sentenced to death 46 years ago. But just months after that sentence, California's Supreme Court declared the death penalty unconstitutional, prolonging the life of one of the most reviled men in American pop culture. And overnight, at 83 years old, Charles Manson died of natural causes.
Helter Skelter is still the best-selling true crime novel of all time, even with lots of its information being incorrect.
So, the Manson prosecutor, Vincent Bugliosi, was the one who made up the Helter Skelter theory. He wrote a best-selling book called Helter Skelter, and the media takes that as gospel, and I want to know why. Why? But now we're going to get to the good stuff, and the good stuff is the new evidence. And kind of want to let it just speak for itself, and I think it might blow your mind, Jake, and I hope it does, and to you guys at home. So let's play this clip.
Manson has never admitted giving the orders to his followers to commit murder. He told me that he could understand that they might have wanted to please him, but he never commanded them to do anything like that. And I think it is very possible that he's telling the truth about that. Very possible that he's telling the truth about that.
This man was not guilty of murdering my daughter.
That's Sharon Tate's mom.
Of all the 7 murders that I know of, he did not commit one of them, all right? I feel that he has taken the blame for all of them. And the ones that should be blamed for is Tex Watson and Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel.
What do you think of Sharon Tate's mom attending all of your parole hearings?
Sharon Tate's mom has never attended my parole hearings, and she knows I didn't have anything to do with killing her husband.
That's not right, is it, Paul?
No, but she goes to Tex. Tex took responsibility for that, man. You read his book? He said he did that. He said he did it because he thought that's what I wanted him to do.
And I hope in no way that I've in any way I've given the impression that I'm trying to blame anything on my parents or blame anything on drugs or blame anything on rock music or blame anything on Manson, because I do take complete responsibility.
In 2008, Vincent Bugliosi, who was, of course, the lead prosecutor, you know, the Helter Skelter dude, was doing a morning show at the time and came in, sat down. And as we went live, I said, by the way, I want to get something out of the way. Charles Manson never killed anybody. He went berserk. He said, Hitler never killed anybody. I said, you're comparing Charles Manson to Hitler? The Nazi army? Stuka dive bombers? The SS? What? Hitler? He never killed anybody. He was a great salesman. It occurred to me, I'm kind of onto something. I said, he never killed anybody. He just told people. He's a hell of a salesman. It's like people who convince people to be kamikaze pilots. So anyway, as I did this, Bugliosi went berserk. He said, don't you understand? He told these people to do it. I told him, hey, Vince, go out and rob a bank and bring me the money. Go right now. Go, rob a bank, bring me the money. Now go. I'll stop the interview. I said, now, if you do that, I'm supposed to be charged with robbery?
Do you feel any responsibility for what happened that night?
None.
You feel no remorse for what happened that night?
How am I going to feel remorse? What am I supposed to feel remorse about? Everyone says, you feel no remorse. I said, can't you understand I'm not guilty of anything? And they said, well, you're supposed to feel remorse. I'm supposed to feel remorse because you don't understand, because you're twisted in your brain. In other words, someone comes in and says, you were in New York City last night. You said, no, I wasn't. And they said, well, don't you feel bad about it? You should feel bad about what? Said people that happened in New York City. Man, I wasn't in New York City. I wasn't there. I was in San Diego in bed with some broad I met in Big Sur. I didn't have no family. I had a motorcycle, a sleeping bag, and a guitar guy. I just got out of the penitentiary. I haven't been out of jail long enough to they say, well, you got our kids to do this, knock you out. You had your kids to do that. Your kids were doing that before I got out of the penitentiary. I just got out of jail. Can't you understand that? You tell the people something, and they've got their minds made up a certain way. You dig what I'm saying? And you tell them something, they just don't know. What am I supposed to feel remorse about? Do you feel remorse that every day of my life you've tormented me with these idiots that you got holding me down? that you beat me and knocked my jaw out, you forced me medication, you drugged me up down hallways, you hit my head on every chopping block in the state of California, you poisoned me, you've done everything. I puked blood for months and days, man. You've done everything you could do to get me killed, and then you turn around and ask me, do I have any remorse? If I had the right to do to you what you've been doing to me, then that gives me the right to do anything I want to, anyone I want to do it to. Can you see now? Well, you better give me my rights.
That's a statement of facts, Mr. Manson.
As they've been presented to you.
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
Did you want to tell us your side of this?
Yeah, I've been wanting to for years, but it just it wouldn't listen.
Okay, this is your opportunity if you want to tell us, as long as you don't take too long, because we're not,
See, there we go. See, how long is the episode would be to squeeze it down in words. You know, we're talking about 25, 30 years here. That's not very easy to say in a few minutes.
I understand that. I just want you to do the best you can.
Yeah, well, the more confusion that people have piled on me with lies and deceit and ambition and all the greedy little things that they play their dollar bills for comes back to the penitentiary that I've been in since I was a little kid.
The facts of this case speak for themselves. The consummate brutality of the unspeakable premeditated murders for which Mr. Manson has been convicted clearly demonstrate his wanton disregard for human life.
Now, stop.
Okay.
Now, that's my point, exactly. If I were guilty of that, that would be true. But as long as that court stands, then that's what makes me what I am to that man's mind. That is not me. He gets his reality from that court. If that court says I'm guilty, he's going to agree with it. You know, whatever you guys are playing out there that's nice for you to play when you got the money, that's cool. But when you're down in a hard time where you ain't got nothing but the mind you're mopping and slopping with, you got to deal with what you got to deal from here, honey buns. And when you can do that, then that's the penitentiary. I don't know all the things you know, but you don't know the things I know either. I don't disrespect you and take your rights, so give me my fucking rights. You can't fool me. You can't trick me. I didn't have nothing to do with killing those people. Period. Okay. I've told you that all the way down the line. I wasn't around anyone when they were killed. I'm not saying I'm not capable of doing it myself. Okay. But I'm just saying this. I did not do that. And I could have proved it in a court of law.
Okay, that's on the record, Mr. Manson.
Yes,
Let me finish this letter. It's very clear.
If there's any change or anything you want to say about...
So all of that is reality to you?
Yes. Yes, we accept as true.
And either if it never happened, it's still reality to you?
Yes, because you were found guilty by a court of law.
Okay. And all the things that in that courtroom, that went through that courtroom, is reality to you?
Yes.
In other words, what you're making me into in your reports so that you can write your books and do your Rambo trips and make your movies for public entertainment is not really what happened. And what happened could have been explained, but if you will allow me to call a witness.
No, we do not allow witnesses in here.
I mean, it's within a panel. I'd like to question that man in front of the panel.
We do not allow that, Mr. Manson. We have a procedure that we follow. Now, if you want to tell about the crime, then go ahead and tell about the crime. Otherwise,
then I will say it, and then if it isn't true, he can interrupt it through you, and then we can talk through you. Is that legal?
You may.
It says here that I call witnesses on this paper here.
No.
This says I got these rights to do this.
No, you do not. If you would please respond to either any additions or corrections to the incident offense that I just read.
Yeah, I didn't tie anybody up.
Okay.
I was never on the scene when anyone was killed. I think the law says you can only keep me 17 years or 18 years if I was never on the scene when anyone was killed. I was never on the crime scene of anything. The closest I came to the crime scene is I cut Hinman's ear off in a fight over some money because the Frenchman, he wouldn't pay the Frenchman, and I told him why don't he be a man about himself and pay his debts, and we had a fight. So in order to hook me up to that, they say, well, they tortured the dude 3 days. I was gone from that scene of that crime for 3 days. I was never on the scene of any crime. I never told anyone directly to go anywhere and do anything. I always said, and mostly it come from the witness stand, I said, like, you know what to do. You have a brain of your own. Don't ask me what to do. I just got out of prison. I don't know what's going on out here. I haven't been out of jail long enough to really get a perspective of what was happening. I just was released from McNeil Island, and I was in Mexico City prison before that, and I was in Turtle Island before that, so I really wasn't up on the 60s as much as you all make me out to be. I had just got out of prison. Most of those people, like Castavian, I knew her 2 weeks. I had seen her 2 or 3 times around the ranch. I had never even been with the broad, man, that much, you know.
Okay.
You know, I kind of anticipated what you were going to say because you've been saying the same thing for 20 years.
All right.
This has grown so much that the people living in my life have moved in with uniforms and penitentiaries. They built whole penitentiaries in the fear that they've generated off of this case. So the public can feel safe against this monster. We're going to charge you $200 million to build another set of penitentiaries.
Mr. Manson.
So people living in my life, they don't care whether I broke the law or not. They'll make up a lot of things and sell a lot of books, 58 of them to be exact, and billions of dollars have been made, and it's okay if I have to spend my life in prison. Let me finish. Just to hold me, because I've shown you some strong strength, and I haven't surrendered to this by copping out to yours or telling tales on someone else or playing weak. You've medicated me, you've burnt me, you've beat me, you've stabbed me, you've done everything you can do to me, and I'm still here, and you're still going to have to face the truth about this case sooner or later, if not here in the street.
Do you have remorse, Mr. Manson? Do you feel any remorse for the victims whatsoever?
Now, we reach an impasse here, man. We're in pawn 4, bishop 4 to 7. Let's see. How do I finesse that? You say in your minds that I'm guilty of everything that you've got on paper. So therefore, it would run logic that I would need to have remorse for what you think is reality. And if that be true, then all the ocean's contents, if it were my tears, there would not be enough to express the remorse I have for the sadness of that world that you people live in. Okay. But I don't have, on the other side of that, I asked you back the same thing. You know, you've been using me ever since I was 10 years old. They used to beat me with leather straps, you know. It's like, does anyone have any remorse that I've spent 23 years in a solitary cell, and even on Devil's Island, you didn't keep anyone over 5 years. You broke every record that they've ever set on the planet Earth. You only kept Christ on the cross 3 days.
Mr. Manson, I think you answered the question. Do you still have a family? Per se, the type of the family you had at the time of the crimes. Do you still have a family?
Family.
Uh-huh.
That's another one of the district attorneys. See, when they set that case into the paperwork to make it real, they had to catch little words so they could turn all that in and make it into a reality. Hippie cult leader is a word that they used.
Let's go ahead, Mr. Manson, with your closing statement regarding suitability.
You gonna limit me to suitability?
I'll let you ramble a little bit, but I'd like you to stick to suitability.
Is that what you call it, rambling?
Well, no, I didn't mean it that way. I will allow you to talk about what you would like to talk about, as long as you don't stray too far from suitability, please.
As long as I don't say anything, it's okay if I talk.
No. By the way, Charles Manson never killed anybody.
What about Helter Skelter?
That's the district attorney's illusion. That's his trick. That's a reflection of his fear, his sex paranoia, all the games that... But he won that reality for you guys. When he said, I versus the people versus the people that he represented, he won Helter Skelter as a reality for those people. But that's got nothing to do with me. Helter Skelter was a nightclub in the desert. It's where I run a poker game and I shoot dice. And I make money and I ride around and do buggies. It's funny, they say, you're going to the desert. I said, I was going to the desert? I said, LA's in the middle of the desert. What's wrong with you, dummy? You say, you were going to the desert? How can I be going to where I'm in a conspiracy to go to where I'm standing? You know, it doesn't make any sense, man. I mean, it makes sense to you people. Helter Skelter is just simple, just confusion.
This man was not guilty of murdering my daughter.
Then he's telling the truth about that.
What did your followers do?
I didn't have any followers. I had some friends.
What did your friends do?
They did whatever they had to do.
And what was that?
Whatever that was.
Did any of your friends kill people?
Sure.
Who did they kill?
They killed lots of people.
Did they kill Sharon Tate and the people that night?
I imagine so. If they said they did, they did.
Did you tell them to?
No.
Are you ever in contact with any other members of the so-called Manson family, your friends?
The Manson family was a music group. The music group I had was called the Family Jams. And all the girls sang in the music group. And all the guys played in the music group. It had nothing to do with a cult. The Manson family was a music group. The music group I had was called the Family Jams. And all the girls sang in the music group. And all the guys played in the music group. It had nothing to do with a cult. It was a music group.
So could you imagine living on a commune with people who see you as, a leader or somebody who's, who they respect, and one of these people killed somebody without your knowledge, and the law blamed you for the murder because you were the one that they respected or looked up to or whatever you want to say. I mean, there is no evidence of him being at the crime scenes. He wasn't anywhere near the crime scenes, and you have to have evidence to convict somebody, but I guess you don't. They ignored Sharon Tate's mom, who, I didn't know this, was an advocate for Charlie Manson. Why do you think I haven't known that? It's because the media wants to stick with their boogeyman story, with their Charlie was a cult leader, and he wasn't, and they made him seem crazy with all the videos and stuff. Every question they ask him, they cut out some things. They Frankenbited is what I call it. But so that's all I got for the new evidence. I want to hear your thoughts about it, Jake.
Oh, I think it's a very interesting connection showing the legal system and how they treat people based on the pseudo documented paper man. And, he kept repeating, he's like, so you guys say I am the person on the paper, but I don't say that I'm that, and so like it's a really interesting legalese exhibit. And I think the connection with him and MK Ultra and mind control and the whole concept of acid being used to make people look crazy and the whole situation to me points to the government's fingers and their experiments in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine living on a commune or whatever you call it with a bunch of friends? One of your friends goes and kills somebody and they blamed you. Wouldn't that be crazy? It's a crazy thing to put yourself in his shoes.
Yeah, I would be interested in, if anybody knows, or if you could find this out, Jeremiah, could you find out what specific biblical prophecy that Manson was associating himself with when it came to his, eschatology and end times beliefs? So, like, what Bible verses was he actually preaching to people or singing about? That's kind of what I'm curious.
And that's the hard thing, is because the prosecution presents one thing and Charlie and his followers present another thing. So I'll find it out and I'll let you know. But it's just very interesting that people are just willing to run with this story. And like, if you look up serial killer on any platform, Charles Manson will pop up. One, he wasn't a serial killer. A serial killer means you kill more than 2 people at different times. And neither was he wasn't a mass killer either, because he wasn't there. Just no connection. Doesn't matter what his religious beliefs are, in my opinion. They used him as a vessel to use as an example to scapegoat him and just make him seem like a crazy person. America needed a bad guy. I want to know what was happening politically during that time, because I'm sure it has a lot to do with it, just like today, just like the current news. They hide stuff. They show you the what's happening with the aliens while they're doing other stuff over here, and they're like, don't look at this. So they're trying to create a boogeyman. Those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts, Opa?
I think he has a good argument. The fact that, he wasn't there, but according to the court, he was. So, I mean, what's on the paper, what he's been convicted of, that's the truth, regardless of whether it was or not. And a lot of people that have been convicted of things in the past have recently been exonerated.
Yeah. Exonerated. There's no DNA. They even tried to test it recently, like years after. I mean, he's dead and gone, so he can't be released. But one of the women that actually did the killing is out today. So everybody run. That's a true statement. Leslie Van Houten. So
wow.
And she was a speaker for the prosecution. But yeah, that's all I got for the new Manson evidence. But the next thing I want to show you guys is a recently discovered clip from the Walt Disney Company, the Walt Disney Archives, and it's of Walt Disney predicting what would happen in the year 2023, because the company was created in 1923. But these were his predictions, and I want to get your feedback, so check this out.
Good evening, friends. You know, I founded this company, way back now in 1923. If you find people would indulge me, I'd like to fondly imagine what it might look like on its 100th anniversary in the distant year 2023. I'd give anything to be there with you. And incidentally, have a handkerchief ready. It's a wistful and romantic notion, I suppose, but I dream of superheroes running around wearing brightly colored spandex. I hope that by 2023, my Disney studio will produce a new Snow White, a very special kind of motion picture, one of which we're very proud, which will deconstruct the old fairy tale with romantic notions being shunted aside and Snow White's dwarves being replaced by magical people and flaky socio-cultural prevailing attitudes, and the mezhij. Well, I suppose you can't blame a fond old man for dreaming. The wholesome family values and romance that have stood as a cornerstone of my company will, I can only hope, be jettisoned in favor of characters who are strangely sexless, who don't become involved in relationships. It's my fervent wish that the indulgent writers of these characters assemble a film that alienates great swathes of the nation and ultimately sucks balls to such an extent that it loses my company $250 million. Why, it is my most cherished hope that a new version of the beloved Little Mermaid, a real Disney favorite, will include a musical number by a squawking, spluttering woman who sounds like she is mentally deranged. A song that sucks so much it were if the torture suction device affixed to the eyes in Saw X had instead been attached to society's collective rectum and placed on turbo, causing a catastrophic colonic hemorrhage. In the far-off times, decades hence, I would be delighted if my Disney company produced a kids' flick featuring a first non-binary character to instill in impressionable boys and girls the charming notion that they too could embrace the idea of being non-binary and gender fluid. My hope would be that my company would herald the studio's 100th anniversary celebration by ditching the wholesome, earnest family values and trademark charm in favor of a hopelessly complex and abstract premise with a tangle of other in-universe rules destined to bore and confuse little children and falling flat at the box office. I envisage my company overseeing a space adventure film franchise that gets spun off into so many movies and shows. It sinks to the level of including a gargantuan, fat-assed, flute-playing R&B singer who has a reputation for haranguing and fat-shaming her backup dancers. Fingers crossed that in the future my theme park might include a Star Cruiser hotel that will require decent folk to shell out thousands of dollars to have the simulated experience of being human trafficked by being ushered into a panel van, which is ostensibly a space shuttle, and taken to their small windowless bedroom in a hotel. In keeping with the time-honored verities of my company, I can only hope that a future film version of the beloved Peter Pan will feature Wendy punching Peter out like a bitch. For my company's vision to be brought to fruition in distant years hence, I would envision the pointless resurrection of a show about a valiant little person used as a vehicle for Los Angeles scriptwriters to flaunt the sexual awakening of a ginger-haired girl under the seduction of a plucky established lesbian. And the two of them lesbianizing as irrepressible lesbites in lesbicious fashion, while a narrative about spells and quests progresses in tandem without overshadowing the lesbotic tendencies of the provides a romantic and optimistic core to the story. My, oh my, what a wonderful future lies in wait. What I started way back in 1923 is bound to receive its greatest realization and apotheosis a century on in the distant future of 2023. One thing I can be sure of. The custodians of Disney in the future will take the values that I hold dear and express them in wholesome, engaging, and above all, original films and shows the whole world is bound to love. I'd give anything to be there with you.
So there you have it. What are your thoughts, Jake?
Oh my gosh, that was terrible, man. I can't. Okay, it was funny. It was funny.
It would have been that he would have been so pissed about what's happened to his company.
How they turned
How
Disney
they
into
have,
what it is.
because he wanted it to be for children that, he believed in morals. Today's
Or
company.
so Disney has told us.
Well, I have collections.
For all we know.
Well, me and Opa have like these collectible DVD sets of, because he used to watch Walt Disney on TV. He had a whole TV show, but his main thing was, families. He wants to have a place for families to go together, and it was all about families and all about conservative beliefs. And just to see what's happened to it, if he had a grave, which he was cremated, but he'd be turning in his grave seeing what's happening right now, and it's such a shame. And I used to love that company, and I hope they can change it, but at this point, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Opa?
When you wish upon a star.
Oh, there it goes.
And his wishes come true.
Yep,
Wow.
they sure do. So that concludes my history segment. I hope we can keep that in there. So
Yeah.
I know we both got some memes for everybody today, so let's meme us up.
I know you're a little younger than I am. I've adopted the attitude of the great Negro Leagues, went on to become Negro.
Meme me up.
How about you kick us off there, Jeremiah, with your memes?
All right, we'll do. So I found these funny, but I mean, I have a very dark sense of humor. Me and my girlfriend do. She helped me find these. So let's pull up the first one. So it says, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell being personally blessed by the Pope. Well, great. Now people are going to associate the Catholic Church with pedophiles. And then this next one. Stingray that killed Steve Irwin found dead in his prison cell from an apparent suicide. Those are my two. I could have had a lot more, but oh, there's Opa.
Oh, Fruit of the Loom? What? I see. Oh, okay. All right. There's some questions that need to be answered there at Fruit of the Loom headquarters.
I didn't know he even had all these.
And I was wrong. It wasn't Puerto Rico. It actually was in Honduras where I was. Haynes is in Puerto Rico, but the Fruit of the Loom that I went to was in Honduras.
So there's a definite conspiracy there for sure. Because
yeah, for sure.
everybody's blaming the Mandela effect. And if Opa has proof, I mean, he was there. He could tell us. So, all right, those are my couple memes.
All right, so check this out, guys. We have a bunch of memes this week. I'm going to speed through them. All right, little dude looks like he's about to make fishing great again.
Yes.
Yes,
Make
we're
fishing
gonna make
great
fishing great again. All right, they told me it wasn't loaded. It's going to take you a second looking at this picture to figure out what it's talking about. If you look here closely,
it's a tank?
It's a truck pulling a tank.
Oh my
the truck's
God.
blown to shreds.
I really hope that's a
All
fake
right,
photo.
Here's a redneck shelf.
Ooh, I like that.
It's
Being a
pretty cool
redneck.
idea.
Mhm.
Yes, yep. Grateful my order of bubble wrap came safely packed with extra protective air pillows. All right. A propeller is just a big fan in front of the plane. Keep it cool. When it stops, you can actually see the pilot start sweating. Sure. I'd love to learn to fly a plane. Have you ever wanted to go skydiving, Jeremiah?
No, not at all. I do not ever want to even know.
I could tell you a story about my event, but it'll too long.
How about this, Jeremiah? If you get a million subscribers on Skiba News Today, would you be willing to go skydiving?
Yes. If we get 1 million subscribers, I will go skydiving. And
1 million subs.
yes.
You guys heard it here first.
Start sharing, guys. If you want to see me lose my mind jumping out of an airplane.
It ain't fun.
Oh, here's a funny one I've experienced recently. Kids will call your name 100 times just so you can watch them do something like this. Bread is like the sun. It rises in the yeast and sets in the waste. That was a good one, I think. Okay, so OPA sent a whole bunch of vehicles. We're going to have a car section, but this was a motorcycle, so it was in a different segment. But we're going to have a section where we rate a vehicle based on its zombie survival scale. So 1 would be, the zombie, you would never want to use this vehicle during a zombie apocalypse. And 10 would be my favorite zombie apocalypse vehicle ever. So when we do that, we look at this vehicle section OPA sent over, we're going to rate our pictures that way. How about that?
All right, let's do it.
All right, this is a crazy looking truck. I would give this probably an 8 out of 10 on the vehicle survival list for the the zombie apocalypse. An 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I give it about a 9.
What do you? Yeah, a 9. Yeah, you got full white leather couches.
Very roomy.
Very roomy. Yeah. Here's a funny one. Amish high score, 33 miles per hour.
I rate that at 0.
Right next to a speed trap sign. All right. Meanwhile, in Texas.
Well, if it shoots, that's a 10 for sure.
We love our barbecue.
For sure.
We love our barbecue.
Yeah, these Texas memes, I can only relate because we've visited you guys down there a few times. So, right lane closed for no apparent reason. Man, you guys are always working on roads.
Yep.
Here's a phone booth in 1992, and here's a phone booth in 2022.
Yep.
2024 now. But
I keep getting the year wrong, man.
I know, right? My life matters. A lot of people on welfare counting on me. Right, how to woo a lady. Step 1. Woo.
Is that a Nature Boy?
No, it's Arnold. I think it's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh.
Woo. Woo. All right. Okay, so here's OPA's vehicle list. This looks like a Buc-ee's on wheels. That's hilarious.
It is, but I feel like it'd be too easy for a zombie to climb in there and kind of hide.
Yep.
But I do like
you would
the
have to
idea.
have like, it kind of reminds me of those War Machine boats from that. I can't remember what the movie's name was, but
looks like a ferry, one of those car ferries where it's like a big parking garage.
Yeah.
Notice the flag on top. Everything.
Oh, the Buc-ee's. Oh, Texas flag.
Everything is bigger in Texas.
Everything's bigger in Texas. They'll bring a Buc-ee's on the road straight to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. This is a saxophone
or a steam locomotive.
Saxophone.
Well, I guess you could entertain the zombies while you're driving it.
I mean, or this could be the vehicle you use to distract the masses. You make it blow that saxophone horn, and all the zombies chase that while you escape, right?
You know who I could see driving that? Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton. I bet you this is the one. He's got it in his garage. It's actually his, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I rate this a 3 out of 10 of safety or whatever. But all right, this is a classic. I'd give this maybe a 4 out of 10. I feel like that glass is a little iffy.
I definitely give it a 5.5 because that kind of car is made. Man, that's heavy metal right there.
That is true.
Lots of windows.
Yeah, lots of windows. Oh, here's a Snoopy motorcycle. If you're riding into the sunset of your death, maybe this is what you want to use during the apocalypse. But yeah, that's cool. All right. A convertible. This is like a 1 out of 10. of what you want to use during the apocalypse?
Well, I don't know. If you're trying to shoot the zombies, you need a place with the open top.
Yeah, and the fenders can knock them to the side.
Yeah. I say six for sure.
Yeah, you can just, as long as you're maintaining a top speed of 60 and not slowing down, you'll be all right.
Yep, and you know how to shoot.
Okay, so here's like an old-fashioned truck, lowrider.
That's crazy. One of my friends sent me one like that. I don't know if they really do these, but that would be awesome.
The EW truck.
Yeah. All right. Cool, like old, like futuristic motorcycle concept piece.
Wow.
That's cool. Yeah, 2 shotguns strapped to my back, riding around town.
Yep.
Looks like they might have set a speed record in the Mojave Desert.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's all sandy. Look closely. This one says Project Tetanus. I guess it's a rust bucket, what they titled it. Here's a Texaco bus.
Ooh,
and this thing is so cool.
That looks like it could, deflect some zombies. We could use those windows for shooting the zombies.
Oh, yeah. Those windows look a little sturdier than that other one.
For sure.
8 out of 10 for me. Yeah. But look at this, baby.
Man, I would love. I wish these were real.
B&B included.
4-bedroom.
4-bedroom. Here's a new Ford F-350.
Yeah, looks like the zombies already got to that one. Bless you.
Excuse me. So, yeah, the tree zombies. Okay, so it looks like they invented this vehicle with a bench on the back. That's cool.
This is a real vehicle, a real car that was produced.
That's crazy.
Wow. Take a seat back on here and watch the drive-in movie.
Yep. We still have drive-ins out here. Do you have them where you are?
Yeah, we have them in a state away.
One of our subscribers owns a couple drive-ins, I believe, and a theater. So if we ever want to go out there, they invited us to do whatever we want to do.
Here's a sprayed my classic truck with rust removal picture.
Wow. Well, that would be like a 10 out of 10 then for zombies.
For zombies.
I'll give that one a 10.
Just throw the tire at them.
Give them a 10.
No, if it's invisible, I mean, roll right through
them. This one, I was going to say, this is the setup. This is like probably a 9 out of 10. Look at this. Like,
I know,
you got
that's
the
great.
Front cab here. You have the house cab in the back with your supplies.
The one in the back almost looks like it could be a boat too,
Oh, that's so cool.
Have you seen those cars that are actually boats too? There's a famous video.
Yeah, I have.
LBJ in one of them. They're very slow though.
Just drive right into the water.
Yep.
All right, and then of course, if you want to do it in comfort, okay, fine, I'll go camping.
Yeah, that looks great.
A lot of windows there though.
And there's a pool right on the top. You just can't see it.
That's cool. And of course, the old school U.S. Electric Lightman car, the guy who would change the light bulbs, I guess, on the street lights.
That's actually pretty cool. I was gonna say they made every kind of vehicle taller than they should be, like bicycles, and then I was like, oh, for lights, that makes sense.
But I mean, think about it, man. This is at least like a 5 out of 10 in terms of zombie vehicle. Like, you're so high up they can't reach you. You just shoot them if they start to climb up or something.
Yeah.
You're sitting high and pretty.
And an interesting thing is that's an electric car.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a good point. You could get some solar panels, unlimited travel.
Absolutely.
And finally, last meme of the day, when you finally use those extra parts, and it's awesome.
That is awesome.
That's so cool. A lot of those vehicles looked like they had some extra parts somebody put together to make them.
Yeah.
Man.
Very creative, though.
All right, that's all the memes this week, Jeremiah. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Jake, for another great current news and memes as always. But thank you for another great Opus Corner. I hope you guys enjoyed today's history segment on Charlie Manson. We hope you enjoyed today's episode as a whole. Never quit fighting. Let no man deceive you. Thank you for standing alongside us as we fight for justice and continue our quest for truth. Subscribe and stay tuned.
If you would like to submit a story, topic, or have any other inquiries, please email submit@skibanewsnation.com. Also, you can email Jeremiah Skiba personally at jeremiah@skibanewsnation.com. Also, email Jake personally at jake@skibanewsnation.com. If you want to write us a letter, send us something, help support us, or just say hi, please send your letter to Jeremiah Skiba, P.O. Box 560-271, The Colony, Texas 75056. If you write us a letter, I'll do my best to write you back.
Hey, Skiba News Nation family, thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you never miss an episode of Skiba News Nation. If you want to help support us, please consider becoming a Patreon, where you will get exclusive content, shoutouts, and much more. And you can also support our channel by getting yourself some new Skiba News Nation merch. Thank you for coming on this journey with us as we continue to stay on the quest for truth. Huge shout out to all our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for your support. We couldn't do this show without you. If you want to help support us, go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation. Also, you can listen to Skiba News Nation podcast on your favorite podcast platform.